Um, so I watched Candace Owens' video about George Floyd yesterday. And Miss Candace Owens said a lot about George and how she feels about George Floyd and all the things that she looked up about George Floyd. She's more than welcome to feel that way about the things that she found and things of that nature. But I need y'all to understand something. If you watch Candace Owens' video and you agree with her, I need you to grant me the same respect that I granted her and listen to me all the way through the way I listened to her video all the way through. Me and Candace Owens stand on different sides of the fence on a lot of things, but I've never hated Candace Owens, and the reason why is because I've always been able to empathize with her. I need black people to understand this. Black people, you have to start embracing your weirdo cousins. Your cousins that don't seem to be of the culture, your cousins who don't get it, who are not cool, that are a little corny, whatever, you gotta start embracing them because you are affecting them so negatively that they end up turning on you. Me and Candace are really different, but we both are kind of created the same way. When you're smart and educated and articulate and you try to live life, righteously, sometimes you just want to be embraced by the black community and you want them to hold you in high regard. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. Sometimes you feel like you do everything right, and instead of liking you, some black people like black people who push forward the worst stereotypes of us. And it makes you bitter. And in your time of bitterness, you end up not being around the community. You end up meeting some white people, and they put their arms around you. And they say, you know what, you're great. You're wonderful. There should be more black people like you. And then we hit a crossroads. This crossroads is where me and Candace split. Whenever people put their arms around Candace and say, you're wonderful, you're amazing, why aren't more black people like you? Candace said, you know what, I am great. You know what, I am amazing. More black people should be like me. And from now on, I'm going to criticize black people who aren't like me. Which is not the way she should have handled that. She should have handled it like me. But that's why I empathize with her. What I responded was, there are tons of black people like me. Maybe you should befriend more black people so you'll see there's more black people like me. But even though there's a lot of black people who aren't like me, that's okay, because black people are not a monolith. Part of being free is having the freedom to be however you want to be. So just because they aren't like me doesn't mean they're not just as good, just as interesting, just as loving as I am. And I have no reason to criticize them. And then Candace says that black people are the only community who lift their worst. And you have to understand, people who love Candace and goes, this is a black woman speaking on black issues. She's been there. Candace is not of the culture. I need you to understand that. I need you to understand that. Meeting a Brazilian in America, born and raised in America, is not the same as meeting a Brazilian who was born in Brazil, raised in Brazil, only lived in Brazil. That is kind of what I'm giving you when I tell you about Candace. She was born in the culture. She became bitter. She's not really of the culture. I watched an interview with her and Joe Rogan where she said she was a huge Jay-Z fan. Everything he said was church, and she understands everything he comes from, being a drug dealer from Queens. If you are of the culture, you would never say Jay-Z is from Queens. There is nobody of black culture who listens to hip-hop, who grew up or listened to Jay-Z, understand Jay-Z is one of our most notable people. We know plenty about Jay-Z. Some of y'all can say it's a Freudian slip. It is not. No black person would ever say Jay-Z is from Queens. The reason she didn't really know, and she was just saying whatever she was saying, because she's just trying to make you feel like she's of the culture and and that, you know, that she knows what she's talking about. But no, she's hurt. So I'm not saying don't follow her, but I say take some of the stuff she says with a grain of salt, because she's not one of us. She's not speaking from a place of knowledge whenever she's speaking to you. She says that black people hold up their worst, and George Floyd represented one of our worst.